And Senator Clinton or President Clinton asserts that I said that the Republicans had better economic policies since 1980. That is not the case.
It is sometimes difficult to understand what Senator Obama has said, because as soon as he is confronted on it, he says that's not what he meant. The facts are that he has said in the last week that he really liked the ideas of the Republicans over the last 10 to 15 years.
That is not true. What I said, and I will provide you with a quote, what I said is that Ronald Reagan was a transformative political figure because he was able to get Democrats to vote against their economic interests to form a majority to push through their agenda, an agenda that I objected to, because while I was working on those streets, watching those folks see their jobs shipped overseas, you were a corporate lawyer sitting on the board of Walmart. I was fighting these fights.
You talked about Ronald Reagan being a transformative political leader. I did not mention his name.
Your husband did.
Well, I'm here. He's not.
Okay, well, I can't tell who I'm running against sometimes.
I think we both have very passionate and committed spouses who stand up for us, and I'm proud of that. But you also talked about the Republicans having ideas over the last 10 to 15 years.
I didn't say they were good ones.
Well, you can read the context of it.
Well,
it certainly
I didn't
came
say
across.
They were good ones.
Well, it certainly,
right,
it certainly
yeah.
came across in the way that it was presented, as though the Republicans had been standing up against the conventional wisdom with their ideas. I'm just reacting to the fact, yes, they did have ideas, and they were bad ideas, bad for America. And I was fighting against those ideas when you were practicing law and representing your contributor, Resco, in his slum landlord business in inner city Chicago.
Nasty, nasty stuff. Nasty stuff. Hey, welcome to the Blathering Boomer. I'm in a bad mood today. Unrelated to all this. But that doesn't stop me from going live. So what I just showed was a debate from the last time the Democrat Party had a competitive and honest primary. And that was 2008, with Barack Obama going toe-to-toe with Hillary Clinton. And those of you who tuned in early and saw that clip, those who tuned in later, I'll show the full thing in the edited version of this, which will be out in a day or two. 9 people already watching. 11. Whoa! It looks like a storm of people tuning in. So basically, elections are nasty business. We just went through a really nasty one. That was a nasty, nasty election. And what's really nasty now is people who just are freaking out. They're losing their minds over the result, and it's. There's some people I just can't even talk to right now. It's so sad, so scary. The point is, and it's not the only time that's happened. Barack and Hillary, well, Barack got elected. Barack won the primary, and fair and square, I believe, and went on to become the president. And also, I believe, fair and square election in 2008. I was a passionate supporter of his. I thought he was an amazing campaigner, and I really, really bought into all his promises. The whole hope and change thing, and cleaning things up and getting corruption out. How that played out is a topic for debate. So Obama wins the election, and what happens? He makes Hillary the Secretary of State. The point being, as you saw in that little clip I played, that was nasty. That was nasty stuff. So nasty debates aren't lost on, this one's maybe a little more humorous, but rather scathing as well. This is a Republican debate 8 years later, back in 2016. I'll hit play.
He's always calling me Little Marco. And I'll admit, the guy, he's taller than me. He's like 6'2", which is why I don't understand why his hands are the size of someone who's 5'2". Have you seen his hands? They're like this. And you know what they say about men with small hands? You can't trust them.
He said I had small hands. Actually, I'm 6'3", not 6'2", but he said I had small hands. They're not small, are they? I never heard that one before. I've always had people say, Donald, you have the most beautiful hands. Right? He hit my hands. Nobody has ever hit my hands. I've never heard of this one. Look at those hands. Are they small hands? And he referred to my hands. If they're small, something else must be small. I guarantee you there's no problem. I guarantee it.
Parents watching last night, kids watching too. You and Donald Trump have traded personal insults in recent days, and Trump responding last night to your comments about the size of his hands. And without going any further, this is a morning show. You have young children. Do you regret where this has gone?
Look, I regret the way the campaign has become, absolutely, because Donald Trump for the last year has made it one of the most vulgar spectacles in American political history.
So when little Marco spews his crap about the size of my hands, which are big, the size of my hand, those hands can hit a golf ball 285 yards, right? Those are good, strong. So what do I do? For the rest of my life, I have the curse that I have little hands. Little hands. Take that guy. So I said to my people.
The point of it is people have gone at it in primaries, and then when it's over, generally the winner gets endorsed by the rest of the party. They form a united front and they move on. This was not, with one exception, and that exception was 2016. The 2016 primary was filthy, dirty, nasty, and rather crooked. First of all, what the fuck are superdelegates? What are the purposes of superdelegate? That's got to be the biggest euphemism I've ever heard in my life. It means that the party insiders get to override the will of the people. It doesn't matter who, such a significant number of them in 2016. Bernie never really had a chance. He was polling small, but then he started winning state after state. They started taking him seriously. So what happened? Debbie Wasserman Schultz pulled her shenanigans, a phrase that Noam Chomsky referred to, their shenanigans, and everything fell apart. But the thing of it is, unlike previous primaries and I'd say primaries since, but the Democrats haven't had an actual primary since 2008, as I've said. But the Republican Party, the Republican Party had a primary. It was a nasty one, as you could see in 2016, talking about the size of each other's hands. The people who supported Bernie didn't feel like they lost legitimately to Hillary, myself included. I was a big-time Bernie supporter back then, and I couldn't abide by the cheating. And so, no. When Sarah Silverman got up there at the Democrat National Convention and said to the Bernie supporters who still wanted Bernie to be the nominee against any possible reality, but they were still chanting Bernie's name, she said those fatal words, "You're being ridiculous." And then she went on to say how she's going to proudly vote for Hillary Clinton after attending and speaking at many, many Bernie rallies. And then Facebook exploded because it became the whole Bernie bros versus the Hillary crowd. And I was among the Bernie bros, and man, the things I was told, grow up, get real, you're a loser, be realistic, many more that I'm not thinking of him, because I'm live without a script, and I'm just blathering off the top of my head. I'm having a bad hair day, so hence the hat. But BB, gotta love the BB, Blathering Boomer. Thank you, Stephanie, for the hat. Even though it's a Barcelona hat, it works very well for Blathering Boomer. So yeah, I'm saying things off the top of my head. The point being that if you think of the Democrat Party as a burning building or a sinking ship, I'm not sure which one I like better. Let's go with sinking ship. Let's say that bad people like Debbie Wasserman Schultz seized the steering wheel of the good ship Democrat and ran it into an iceberg and made a small hole. So basically, the Titanic sank in a couple of hours. That's where that parallel ends. But this was a small hole, but the boat was going to go down. The boat was definitely going down. So when you're on a sinking ship, you basically have three choices. You could go off in a lifeboat, save yourself. You could do everything you could to repair the hole, and then maybe get in the lifeboat anyway. Or you could just declare that this ship is the best place to be, even though it's a sinking ship, and you go down with the ship. I think what's happened in that metaphor is the people who decided to stay on the sinking ship have developed major, major resentment to the people who jumped ship and saved themselves, because the Democrat Party is a sinking ship. As evidenced by the bloodbath they endured this year, by the hopeless outlook for them. So it goes on to this day. I can't even go on Facebook. I posted something on Facebook that basically said, hey, essentially said that if we let our political differences get in the way of our friendships, the people who are doing that are part of the problem. And I got a bunch of hatred for that. And now I'm seeing other posts that are kind of the complete polar opposite of that. So where does that leave us? And that's a great question. Where does it leave us? It leaves us heavily divided, heavily divided. And now Trump's trying to appoint a cabinet. And of course, the people who can't handle the fact that Trump got elected can handle a lot of his appointees. Now, I could talk about Matt Gaetz. I could talk about Pete Hegseth. I'm guilty of doing everything MSNBC does with his name. Pete Hegseth. They like to purposely mispronounce his name. Anyway, Pete Hegseth, he might have an uphill battle. Some allegations came out about him that he's going to have to address. They definitely don't like Matt Gaetz. They're attacking RFK Jr. And of course, they're attacking Tulsi Gabbard. But let's think about this for a second. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK Jr. Let's toss Joe Rogan into the conversation. What do I have in common with all of them? It's that we all were one time either Democrats or supporters of the Democrat Party. They got out of the burning building. They got off the sinking ship. The Democrat Party is hopeless. I thought that after the 2016 election, when I was not happy about Trump being elected, although I was not going to vote for Hillary, I voted for Jill Stein, and boy, did I get heat for that. Ooh, that got them mad. That got them so mad. I got called a misogynist. Jill Stein is a biological woman. She's a woman, period. And I got called a misogynist because I voted for Jill Stein. They're going crazy, and they have had an 8-year-long nervous breakdown, which continues to this day. And it's really sad, and I don't know what to do about it other than steer clear. I was at a friend's house 4 years ago during the intensity of the 2020 election, and people knew that I was not that I didn't vote for Hillary and that I wasn't going to vote for Biden, and I was kind of labeled. And one of them actually came out and said to me, he goes, I can understand the MAGA, they're just all a bunch of scum, but a guy like you supporting, voting for Trump or not voting for Biden, that's dangerous. I'm thinking, good. I want to be dangerous. I'm jealous of these disruptors that are about to be put in the cabinet. So let's focus for a moment on Tulsi Gabbard, on Lieutenant Colonel Tulsi Gabbard, who in 2016 was the vice chair of the DNC. Very, very possible if Hillary would have won the primary and everything was up and normal, Tulsi might have been Hillary's running mate, or she might have been the nominee in 2020. But when she saw the nasty bullshit that the Democrats were pulling on Bernie Sanders, she stepped down in her role as the vice chair and became a Bernie Sanders surrogate. So if you're wondering why people hate her, and by the way, all the right people hate her. If you're a Tulsi person, getting hate from some of the people that I'm going to outline is a compliment and not an insult. So let's take a look at some of the hate she's getting. Let's start with one of my favorites. Yeah, let's hear from Alexandria Ocasio-Steinberg, or whatever her name is.
And we haven't even gotten to Tulsi Gabbard potentially having access to national security information. And Russia loves it, loves her.
And I actually think almost more than Matt Gaetz, Tulsi Gabbard's appointment is devastating. And Tulsi Gabbard's nomination, as much as she says that she's an anti-war person, she's not.
Yeah.
She supports very pro-war individuals,
including in
abroad.
Syria.
And let's be very clear,
Yeah.
a Tulsi Gabbard nomination is
Yeah.
a pro-war nomination globally, point blank, period.
As is Donald Trump as president of the United States. And we have
So yeah, when two blithering idiots get together and have a conversation, there's the result of it. But they're not the only ones bashing Tulsi. Here's some more choice little things about Tulsi's being the nominee, and there's our dear friend Debbie Wasserman Schultz. Debbie Wasserman Schultz accused Tulsi of possibly being a direct line to our enemies as President-elect Trump's Director of National Intelligence. Read the latest bipartisan pushback here. Well, we're not going to bother doing that, but again, she's playing the whole Hillary card, the Tulsi's a Russian asset card. And then, of course, you have John Bolton, who's one of the most disgusting warmongers ever to enter the Beltway. And John Bolton says, Trump picking Tulsi Gabbard as Director of National Intelligence, worst cabinet-level appointment in history. Sorry, John. I'm so sorry. I apologize, Mr. Bolton, because that title is yours, and Tulsi is not going to usurp you. Anyway, not everybody feels that way about Tulsi. There are some people who actually like her, like this guy.
But just on a side note for a second, Tulsi is one of the most lovely, decent human beings I have ever met in my entire life. Not only, obviously, are our political journeys similar, both former Dems, Libs, and now have become part of this thing, and really, I would say, right in the center of it. But I know her well. We have had many, many meals together. She's played with my kids. She is just a great, great human being. And she deeply, deeply loves this country. And that is the type of person that we need in government. We also need someone in government who knows what they believe and why they believe it, and doesn't just get a job because of a skin color or who they sleep with or something else. I thought this was
So yeah, Dave Rubin nails it on the head. You know, they say that, cigarette smokers have a problem with non-smokers, but they really have a problem with ex-cigarette smokers. And cult members have a problem with with people who are not in their cult, but they really have a problem with people who were in the cult and aren't in the cult anymore. And I think that's kind of what I'm going through in my personal life these days, is that people I was side by side with who I guess think I should know better. The problem is I do know better. I do know better. I wish some of these people would just see and hear some of the things I hadn't heard, but they're stuck in that media bubble and that hive mind, and it's just hard to break away from it. And it's not a comfortable thing. It's a very, very uncomfortable thing. And I know I'm coming off angry, and yeah, there's some things today that kind of pissed me off. So I'm not in my typical lovable blathering mood. And as a loyal and very, very very OG Tulsi supporter for a very long time, I guess we have a bit of a hive mind too, us hardcore Tulsi supporters, because attacks on her, we feel it's an attack on our entire community. So what I'd like to show, though, is a clip of perhaps the other side of Tulsi Gabbard. Maybe she's not a Russian asset, Hillary. Maybe there's some humanity to her. So let me share the screen again. And this is an oldie but goodie. And the only reason I hesitate showing this clip is because I don't think I've ever watched it without crying, and I don't want to be crying when the clip's over. But I'm going to take my chances, because anybody who hasn't seen this really does need to see this. And let's make this nice and big for everybody. Here we go.
Thank you for talking against war. Thank you for bringing up the fact that Yemen is paying for what is going on in between the Saudi and the U.S. And I, as an Afghan American, have seen the effect of war. The Cold War that started in the 70s and 80s in between the Soviets and America, Afghans are still paying for it. All that being said, when you are talking about the fact that you are against war and you are against our foreign policies, I get very excited and I get very hopeful and I get tearful. But I also feel very hopeless. Why I feel hopeless? Because our system, our foreign policy is built in a way that we thrive when other people fail in the other part of the world. We had Bernie Sanders and we all were so excited that maybe he will bring a change. But his own party stopped him from doing that. Tulsi, I'm all for you. And I hope that I'm going to stand on those tools and vote for you in 2020, hoping that you will. And praying that you will be one person who will make the change, who will bring the change, who will be the voice for the voiceless, who will be the person who can say that the war that we start here, the billions of dollars that we are spending on this war can go to our addicts, to the mental health, to our healthcare here in the States. People are dying of poverty. And yet people are dying of poverty in Afghanistan, in Syria, in Yemen, in Iraq, in parts of Africa, because we have started those wars. Tulsi, how are you going to fight your own party, our own Democrats? How?
Yes.
No more wars.
No more wars. No more wars. No more wars. No more wars. No more wars. No more wars. No more wars. No more wars. No more wars.
Thank you for sharing your heart with all of us. You speak for so many whose voices are not being heard. You have just laid out why I'm running for president. This is not a political ambition that I've had for myself. With the obstacles that are in place and the challenges that exist, it is because of the people that you're talking about, people whose lives are being impacted, that make me work tirelessly to run for president to bring about this change. We're not naive to the challenges that lay before us, or the obstacles that are placed ahead of us, or the smear tactics that are used against us. Yes, it's coming from within our own party. The most attacks I get are not from Republicans. They're from Democrats. They're from people in the mainstream media. They're from people in the foreign policy establishment that you're talking about, people who represent the interests of the military-industrial complex. But you know what? You know what? The answer to how we overcome this, it's us. It's we the people. The stronger they come, the stronger we respond. And you know what? We don't respond to their dirty tactics or their hate with more hate. We respond with strength and love and our message of peace and humanity. We cannot lose faith in the power that we hold within our own hands, our own feet, our own voices in our hearts. It is only when we reclaim our own voices and our own power in dictating the change in this country that we need to make that we can be successful. People will get into a lot of conversations about political tactics and how do we win this race and who's going to beat Donald Trump. Bluntly, I might get in trouble for saying this. What does it matter if we beat Donald Trump if we end up with someone who will perpetuate the very same crony capitalist policies, corporate policies, and waging more of these costly wars? This is why I'm running for president. This is not a joke. This is not for fun. This is not about me. It's about all of us. It's about our future, making sure that we have one. I ask for all of your support. I ask you to stand shoulder to shoulder with me in this movement for peace abroad, peace at home, so that we can fight for that path towards a bright future with opportunity and justice, equality, and respect for all. Thank you so much for coming out, everybody. Aloha. Thank you.
Imagine that. Yeah, I had to put my. That video makes me cry every time I watch it. I just can't help it. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. Russian asset? Are you fucking kidding me? Come on, Hillary. It's amazing. That's their go-to. I can't see shit through these. I'm taking them off. There. I got out my eyes now. I really was tearing up watching that. It happens every time I watch that clip. The look on her face, the sincerity, and she foreshadowed her own Dem exit when she was talking about how, you know, the Republicans are. She's not getting the criticism from Republicans. That Republicans treated her fairly. What do you want her to do? You people who are saying she's a traitor. What did you want her to do? What she wanted to do? She had the principles to not abide by a rigged primary. She runs for president in the same party that basically badmouth. I mean, she was being smeared from day one of her campaign. From day one, she. That's another line from one of my songs. Morning Joe and the View. They're telling lies to you. They're nothing more than bought and paid for hacks. They think with other smears they could play into our fears, telling lies and launching heinous false attacks. And it never changed. It hasn't changed now. Morning Joe and the View. Well, Morning Joe apparently just put on their knee pads and went to Mar-a-Lago. And Trump, hey, say what you want about Trump. He'll talk to anybody. Not like his opponent from this year. But he had them come to he hosted them at Mar-a-Lago. they went there and they went out there and they report. Man, they're getting heat. They're getting a lot of heat from both sides because on the right, their rhetoric was unforgivable, and on the left, they're like, "Oh my God, he sat down with Trump." I mean, people are just basically clutching their pearls at that. So, but I have no pity for Morning Joe or Mika. So, but the rhetoric, the rhetoric hasn't changed. The rhetoric's intensified. Here's some of the things they're saying. This is just a Google search of when I just Googled Trump threatens journalists, and I got Trump threatens media with darker days if he wins. Trump has long threatened the media. Death by 1,000 cuts, how experts warn that Trump could use whatever that was going to be. Trump and his allies are threatening retribution. Could Trump's threats against news outlets carry weight? Jailed reporters, silence. Jailed reporters and silence networks. This is what's pitifully ironic about all that is the party that is pro-censorship are the ones screaming that there's going to be censorship. The party that used lawfare to try to jail their political opponents is screaming that he's going to be jailing people. The party that screams about election deniers, Stacey Abrams to this day thinks she's the governor of Georgia. And I still think Al Gore won the 2000 election. I had serious questions about that. If you, like me, had serious questions about Al Gore losing the 2000 election, remember the whole hanging Chad nonsense? That should have been heard by the Supreme Court, but he backed down because he didn't want the chaos that could potentially follow. So he backed down. But if you had those kinds of questions about 2000, and you don't have just a little tiny question about 2020, it's kind of funny. Apparently 11 million people fewer voted for 11 million people fewer than Biden. In other words, Biden got 11 million votes more than Kamala. And so now it depends on who you listen to. The implication of that, if you listen to the Democrats, they're going to say, oh, people didn't show up, people didn't come to the polls, didn't generate the enthusiasm. If you listen to the Republicans, they're going to say, aha, just like George Costanza, aha, this proves that 11 million dead people didn't vote, or 11 million counterfeit ballots didn't get put in there. Either one might be right. Either one might, and that's the point. Either one might be right. 2020 may very well have been a legitimate election, and 2020 may well have been a rigged election. The point is not so much whether I think it was rigged or not. The point is there are questions that are yet to be answered, and those questions need to be answered. So, 21 people 22 people watching live. We just tied my record. Yay. And thank you, every single one of you. I'm humbled by the fact that you have, people have better things to do than listen to me blather on about politics, this and that. This podcast was never supposed to be about politics. This is supposed to be about the story, about how I went from November 5th to November 5th, which was November 3rd to November 3rd. November 3rd, 1970, I got a job at the Brooklyn Public Library for minimum wage of $1.60 an hour to support my bowling habit. And literally 5 years to the day later, on November 3rd, 1975, I committed a supposedly indictable offense that landed me in prison. And the story about how I was transformed in those 5 years from a minimum wage employee shelving books in the public library to somebody who ended up having to get his books from the prison library is a hell of a story, and how I survived prison is a hell of a story too. So that's going to be future podcasts, and but right now we're still caught in this election, and right now I think as a Tulsi supporter, as a hardcore OG Tulsi supporter, as Triple B once said on Twitter, I feel that I feel a need to kind of show the truth about Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard will make an excellent, ultimate cabinet appointment. This should be celebrated. So that being said, I'm on every Tuesday, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock West Coast time. However, I am likely to be playing the role of Grandpa next Tuesday, which very few things. I really try to do this every week. I'm trying to have a little bit of sense of normalcy in my life, and it's kind of cool. Every Tuesday, there's two things you can count on Tuesday. It's Taco Tuesday. You could carry 27 watching, new record. Thank you, every single one of you for watching. Tuesday's tacos. So I'll sit on my couch, eat tacos, and try to figure out what the hell I'm going to say comes 6 o'clock California time. And I get pretty nervous about it, tell you the truth. It's kind of like having a term paper due. I know all these things I want to say, but I haven't organized anything. So I'll usually finish my tacos at about 4 o'clock, and I'll spend the next 2 hours scrambling for clips and try to figure out what order I'm presenting what in. And again, this is a very, very bad work habit that I developed in college, which was a waste of my parents' money. That's God, I feel guilty about that. I don't want to go off in that tangent. But anyway, it's like I have a term paper due, and I've waited till the last minute to turn it in. So, and whenever I say the final 4 words, which I'm about to say in a minute here, I'm always thinking, shit, man, I really blew it this week. And then I'll watch, I'm like, oh, did I say that? I kind of get into a zone sometimes when I start these blatherings. I realized that this week was a little bit angry on my part. Some stuff on Facebook hit a little bit too close to home. And if there's misunderstandings, I hope they're cleared up. But I know better than to even look at Facebook or post anything political on Facebook, but I'm an idiot, and I couldn't help posting something that I thought was pretty benign, but no. And then I reposted it, turned off comments, and I said, as I was saying, not realizing at the time that that's what Trump said when he took the stage in Butler, Pennsylvania for the second time. So anyway, this is the part where I'm just kind of blah, blah, blah with no clips to share. So I'm just going to call it a night and leave you with the final words of the boomer has blathered.